bicycle in the rain. I like to ride my bicycle in the rain. I like to ride my bicycle in the rain. Do you like to ride your bicycle in the rain?
Hello, and a surprise welcome to a bonus episode of On Your Bike. To tell you the truth, I had so much fun interviewing everyone that I wanted to sort of add my little piece to the mix. So here we go. My name is Sally and I run the Chai Bike. The Chai Bike is a hot drinks delivery business. I make my homemade masala chai from my kitchen and I brew it using local ingredients, local tea, local honey, spices which I source locally. The tea is then brought to a boil on the stovetop with some pea milk and then it's strained into some thermoses which I store in my bike and I cycle around Aberystwyth train. My bike essentially allows me to act as a pop-up cafe so I can take my product directly to my customers rather than waiting for them to come to me. The idea behind the Chai Bike was to bring a cafe space to places where people normally meet and gather, but there isn't necessarily a cup of tea on offer. The ethos is all about building upon community spaces and strengthening the connections that people form in those spaces. I truly believe tea is what makes the world go round. You know, you catch up with friends over a cup of tea, you commiserate over a cup of tea, you celebrate over a cup of tea. It's really integral to our culture and offers a moment to check in with others and to reconnect with our humanity. The Chai Bike started on the 1st of April of this year, so April Fool's Day, and given that it's a slightly odd idea, I really couldn't pass up that opportunity. My first event was with a clothes swap hosted by the Eco Hub, which is a business in Aberystwyth. Since then, I've been lucky enough to cater ceramic festivals, repair cafes, community events, markets, and historical walking tours around Aberystwyth. I've really been blown away by how welcoming the Aberystwyth community has been towards me. It's really been very touching that people are so willing to try my product and I feel like there's a lot of support behind me. In the future, I just really want to build on what I've got so far, cater more community events. So if you have an event coming up, please do let me know. I'm happy to cycle to you if I can get my bike there. I'd also like to continue hosting my own events. So this year I hosted the first Spectrum Cafe, which is a pop-up cafe for neurodivergent people 18 to 26-year-olds. I also hosted a book swap event with the Eco Hub. I'm hoping to return to this next year. Have I always liked cycling? So this is a bit of a tricky question for me. I hated learning to ride a bike. I learned on the prom like most people who come from Aberystwyth, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very anxious person. So riding along the prom was a little bit of a terrifying experience as a child. I remember my dad used to put his hand on my back and run along with me as I sort of gained confidence. And of course he tried that trick that all parents do and let go of me. And I remember being absolutely betrayed, but I've since forgiven him. So I didn't like learning how to ride a bike, but since I've got back into cycling, it's really brought me so much joy. There's something about the rhythmic movement of going along the pedals and feeling the wind in your face. It allows you to sort of center yourself and to really be present in the environment, because whilst you're on your bike, you do have to be switched on, especially if you're cycling across the roads. You need to be aware of potential hazards, and there's something so calming about having to be so attuned to your senses. I find cycling an incredibly meditative experience, and I've managed to gain so many new friends, so many new connections through participating in this activity again. What made you decide to incorporate a bike into your business? So this was kind of a happy accident. I'm loaning my bike from Sustrans. My bike is an e-cargo bike, so it's partly electric, and it allows me to deliver my product in an efficient and eco-conscious way. But I guess the reason why I've kept the bike central to my business ethos and business plan is because it allows me a great deal of flexibility. We heard Chloe talking about how her bike allows her to change locations and to vary what she sells and to take her business basically where it's needed. And I think that's just the beauty of it, that I can pop up where I know people will be. If there's low footfall, I can move to a different location. So that's really why having a bike has been such a strength to my business. In a more personal sense, I've always loved being outside. I'm never happier than when I'm in green spaces. I really struggled being in an office environment. So before I started doing this, I was employed as an administrator at a university. And that was all office space. And I noticed that my mood really lowered from being in sort of these urban, sort of sterile environments. And even as a little girl, I've always said I really want to work outside. The bike has really allowed me to realise that childhood ambition. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of good exercise. You meet a large array of people, as Chloe said. You're really immersed in community. I think what makes bike-based businesses so special is that they excite people. It's a kind of quirky thing, and it definitely brings a smile to people's faces to see something so different on their high street. And in a weird way, I think people have this reception to bike-based businesses because they kind of incorporate sort of an oxymoronic element, in the sense that to have a bike-based business is really pioneering. You know, it's a way of trading in a sustainable way and getting around in a sustainable way. So in that sense, it's something new in that I'm not delivering my product by car, which is kind of the norm nowadays. But also it is a throwback to a simpler time where bikes were used in businesses. They were the main form of transport. You know, your midwives would come via bikes, your doctors would come via bikes. Your milk might even be delivered by a bike, and your newspaper. So in that way, it kind of appeals to the older demographic who were familiar with this sort of mode of trading. I think the first ice cream bike was in 1923, so it's nostalgic and it's appealing to sort of simpler way of life. I question whether maybe this is what we need. We're in a place at the moment that we're at an environmental crisis point. Our landfill filling up, we only have so much finite space in them. We have a huge amount of fossil fuels still being consumed. We're producing a hell of a lot of carbon. And yes, we need to look at innovative ways to solve these problems. Like at Aberystwyth University, they're investigating ways to reduce the methane output that cows produce. And that's incredibly innovative and is a new way of dealing with the environmental crisis. But perhaps we should also be looking back to sort of, more simplistic ways of living. Here in Aberystwyth, you can still get your milk in glass bottles, which can be recycled and reused within the household. Those sort of initiatives take from our past and apply it to our current environmental situation. I think that maybe this is what we need. It won't be the whole solution, but maybe we need to step back from our modernity and look at ways that for us in the past. They just look fun. Wouldn't you like to ride around on a bike all day? Yeah, sounds great. Any new tips for entrepreneurs? I'd say embrace being different. There are a hell of a lot of places that you can get coffee, and my product is slightly different in that it's home brewed, it's hand roasted, it's hand ground, and that's something that I really lean into. My bike is my USP, and that's why I love it so much. And as a neurodivergent woman, I'm never going to sort of conform to the classic stereotypes, and to do so would be suppress my individuality. So I would definitely say lean into your strengths. The reception I've got has been absolutely outstanding. I'd hope that people would embrace individuality and to really support it. Another thing that's really important to me is giving back to my community. I view it as a self-fulfilling cycle. The support that I've given to my community has been repaid to me tenfold, and I really truly believe that what you put out there will come back to you. So if you put out kind energy, you are willing to help other people, then they'll do the same for you. Be prepared to learn and make mistakes. A big part of being self-employed is developing resilience and learning how to pick yourself up after failures. I was incredibly lucky in that I got support from Big Ideas Wales, Syniadau Mawr Cymru, to start up my business, and through that scheme I got business advice. So it's also really important to look and see what resources are available. So don't be afraid about outsourcing or asking for advice where you're not quite sure about something. There's nothing wrong in not knowing the answer, but what trips people up is being afraid to admit that and to ask other people. As has been said many a time on this podcast, just go for it. What have you got to lose? Starting up my business was terrifying. It really was. And it still is terrifying. It's terrifying on a daily. I'll be going to bed and I'll say to my partner, what have I done? I've left my full-time work, which had a stable income, to go pursue being self-employed. But really this has offered me this fulfilling life that I can live at the moment. Though it comes with its downsides, I wouldn't go back to where I was a year and a half ago. It just didn't align with my values, and now I can safely say, I can say with confidence that I'm doing stuff that I believe in, and I'm finding joy in being part of a community. We really are social animals, and this business has allowed me to make connections with other bike-based businesses. Sam and Chloe, who I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. Just go for it, realise your strengths, just have a little bit of confidence for training wheels and go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Come on, ring them bells.
Our theme music is I Like to Ride My Bicycle in the Rain by Woodlake Drift from their album It Must Be.